Call to order the Ames Zoning Board of Adjustment of Wednesday, March 11th, 2020. The Zoning Board of Adjustment is a quasi-judicial board created by the City of Ames. The board's purpose is to decide on applications for home occupation permits, special use permits, exceptions, and variances to the zoning ordinance, applications for conditional use permits in the floodplain, requests for reasonable accommodation because of a handicap, and appeals of the decision of the zoning enforcement officer. As a board, we welcome all testimony. We make our decisions based on the facts and evidence as allowed under city code and presented in open meeting. Testimony before the board must be given under oath or affirmation. If the proceedings become lengthy, we may ask that the testimony be focused on new facts or evidence not already presented. We ask that you come to the microphone up here to speak. If you wish to speak so that your testimony will be audible and may be recorded. Before speaking, please complete an orange information card on the table over there and hand it to our recording secretary. When you are testifying, please address your remarks to the board. We also ask that the proceedings be orderly. The Zoning Board of Adjustment is an independent volunteer board of citizens. We are not part of the city administration. We are served in our efforts by Vicki Fielmeyer, Assistant City Attorney, and tonight we have Ray Anderson and Julie Gould, City Planners, and Jackie Higgins, our Recording Secretary. The order of proceedings for each application will be as follows. First, an oral statement summarizing the issues and procedural steps will be presented by staff. Second, testimony and evidence will be presented by the applicant. Third, testimony may be heard from any members of the audience who wish to speak to this in opposition or in support of the appeal. And next, the board will give the applicant and city staff an opportunity to present concluding summaries and arguments. Finally, the board will discuss the issues and evidence and come to a decision. Okay, so the first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the meeting of February 26th, 2020. Are there any changes to the minutes? Hearing none, we can have
motion to approve.
I'll second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, and the minutes are approved. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing on a special use permit for guest lodging to allow a vacation lodging use for the property. I'm sorry. The first item on the agenda after the minutes has been withdrawn. It was a 2030 Country Club Boulevard vacation lodging use. So if you're here for that, it has been withdrawn. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing on a special use permit for guest lodging to allow a vacation lodging use for the property located at 703 Kellogg Avenue within the RM Residential Medium Density Zoning District and the OSFC Single Family Conservation Overlay District. Ray?
Good evening. The requested special use permit for guest lodging is to allow a vacation lodging use in a duplex located at 703 and 705 Kellogg. The actual vacation lodging unit will be in the 703 Kellogg address, and it's located here in this area on the northwest corner of 7th Street and Kellogg. And the applicant is requesting approval of a one-bedroom dwelling unit with one bedroom available for guest lodging and with 2 adults as guests. The other unit is a 2-bedroom unit on the 2nd floor that will remain as a rental unit for household living. And the request for adults, the number of adults is consistent with the occupancy standards of the Ames Municipal Code that states that no more than 3 adult occupants may be permitted for a 1-bedroom dwelling unit. Parking must comply with the dimensions, location, and paved surfacing requirements of Section 29.406 of the zoning ordinance. And the parking as it exists today is a gravel driveway shown here in this location. And it extends from the street up to along the side of the house. And so what they're proposing to do is to pave the driveway and provide parking on an area of the lot that's on the northwest corner further back than you can see in this photo here, where there used to be a one-car garage, and there's still some concrete paving that remains from that one-car garage. And they will widen out that paving from 12 feet to 18 feet so that you can park 2 cars side by side. And in this arrangement, and then they're required to have 3 parking spaces, 2 for the duplex unit above, and then 1 for this vacation lodging. So the third one would be here, and you're allowed to have stacked parking according to the zoning ordinance change that was recently adopted. And this is a difficult site to get 3 vehicles that can all move in and out independently of each other, but this is about the best we could all come up with, so that if there's not a car parked in this location, at least these 2 could move independently. And according to the applicant, oftentimes there are just the 2 cars. They've also requested that they be allowed to put in these concrete strips instead of the full width of concrete. And this is in the single-family conservation overlay district, which says that the driveway width from the street to the front of the house can be a maximum of 12 feet wide, and they're proposing 9 feet wide with these 2 concrete strips that would each be 2 feet wide. And that takes approval by the municipal engineer, and Tracy Warner is our municipal engineer, and she has approved their request for that. So that's what they're planning to do, is to install those concrete strips from the street all the way up to the paving that was where the garage was located. And again, they need to add about 6 feet of paving over here, and then there's already some paving here. They'll need to add about 3 feet down here. So the parking spaces will be completely paved, but the driveway will have the concrete strips. So they have addressed the parking requirements and meet the number of spaces and the dimensions. This property will qualify for an exemption from the 1,000-foot separation requirement, provided that the special use permit is approved, and as long as they apply for a guest lodging license within 30 days of the special use permit approval. And based on the findings and facts and conclusions, staff believes that the general standards and the residential standards in the code have been met. So our recommendation is for approval in accordance with alternative number 1, and I'll just read through that. The zoning board of adjustment can approve the request for a special use permit for guest lodging at 703 Kellogg Avenue to allow a vacation lodging use in the RM residential medium density zone and the OSFC, the single family conservation overlay district, by adopting the findings and conclusions noted above with the following stipulations reflective of the Ames Municipal Code guest lodging standards and 1 condition. So there's 5 bulleted items under that say off-street paved parking spaces required 1, maximum number of guest bedrooms allowed 1, maximum number of adult guests 3, 1 year of disuse will render this special use permit expired and void. And then the last bullet is the special use permit is not transferable to any subsequent owner of the property. The condition is that the gravel driveway must be paved to city standards as described in this report, including the approval of the paving plan for the driveway and parking. Improvement of the driveway is required no later than 9 months from the issuance of the guest lodging license. Additionally, operation of the vacation lodging use is subject to the requirements of the Ames Municipal Code, including the rental code and guest lodging code. Receipt and annual renewal of a guest lodging license is required. Operation of guest lodging use without an active guest lodging license is a violation of the city code. That completes my report.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for Ray?
I have one.
Okay,
Yeah,
On that drawing that
Yep.
shows the parking spaces in the driveway,
sure.
when you get closer to Kellogg Street, you have a 5-foot dimension,
Oh, yeah, 5 foot in between the two.
but you're up here at
2 foot
9 feet, so that's going to be tapered or,
Is what going to be tapered?
well, down
oh,
here you got 5 feet.
Yeah.
Or up there you have 9 feet.
Oh, nine is, 9 includes the 2 foot strips on either side. So it's
Okay.
2 and 5 and 2.
Okay, I
Yeah.
missed the
Well, then,
hash marks.
that's okay.
okay. Any other questions for Ray? Kyle?
I'm good.
All right. Now it's time to hear from the applicant or their representative. Hello. Take your name and address, please.
Scott Pauline, 705 Kellogg Avenue.
Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Can you tell us about the proposal or anything else you wish to share?
Well, I'm just representing the
Yeah.
landlords. There's not really too much I can add on to his report,
Okay.
really. So I guess not.
Okay. Are there any questions for the applicant's representative board? No? Okay. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Now it's time to go back to applicant. I'm sorry. Now it's time for the public hearing. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak to this agenda item? Seeing no one moving towards the microphone, I'll close the public hearing. It's back to staff or the applicant for concluding statements or further questions from the board.
Nothing unless you have questions.
Entertain a motion. I'll move alternative 1.
I'll second it.
It's a motion by Shoneman, a second by Shapaw. Roll call vote.
Perkins,
Aye.
Shoneman,
Aye.
Aye.
The motion is declared approved. Any person desiring to appeal this decision to a court of record may do so within 30 days after the filing of this decision. Okay. The last agenda item is a public hearing on a variance of perimeter parking lot landscaping and buffer yards of a variance to the amount of allowed compact parking spaces and an exception to the drive aisle width dimensions located at 2125 Greeley Street in the RH Residential High Density Zoning District and East University Impacted Overlay District. Julie.
Good evening. I will say that if you read the staff report, so you might have noticed there was no mention of an exception in there.
Yeah.
Given the timing of notice and by the time we review the application fully, it was determined that the exception wasn't needed, that just the 2 variances were all that were needed. So that's why there's a discrepancy.
But it's okay in the recommended actions in the staff report, right?
Yes, so
Okay,
it was
great.
just the 2 variances are in the
Okay.
recommendations. This property is a sorority located at 2125 Greeley Street. It is the Alpha Delta Pi sorority. This is Beach Avenue, so Hilton and the Alumni Association building are over here, and then just off the picture to the north is Lincoln Way. And then, to zoom in on the property. So this sorority has been, when I look back through property records, has been there since the initial construction was in 1925. Maybe the applicant has more specific dates if these are wrong, but then an addition was done in 67 to give it its current configuration now that exists today. And then sometime in the 80s, when you look back through historical aerials, that's when the parking lot was created in its current configuration. So there really hasn't been any changes to the property and building or parking since the 80s, sometime in the 80s. Tonight's proposal is 2 variances related to parking and landscaping. This request is driven by the need for a kitchen expansion. So this kitchen expansion is going to be, the current kitchen is located at this northwest corner of the building, and they're just doing an approximately 400 square foot expansion here. The expansion is the size of it is because of code requirements that they have to meet, certain types of sinks and hood requirements. So health codes that can't be not done really have driven the size of this addition, which makes for even more tricky parking situation on the property. As you can see now, everybody on this circle takes access to their parking area off of this existing alley that goes all the way through. So they don't have their own separate driveway. This is how they get to their parking area. And currently there's parking directly off of the alley and then into the parking lot. Existing conditions, they don't have the parking lot stalls drawn out, but you can see this north line is kind of crooked today. It's mostly gravel, cars park on it or overhang it. And then there is some grass and landscaping over in this area. So the code requires parking and landscaping requirements are standard in all zoning districts. It's just broken down between commercial and residential. In this situation, they are supposed to be required to have a high screen when a parking lot is located to another residential property. And then, which would be located on this north property line and this east property line. And then again, they would need to comply with all of the parking dimensions for drive aisle width, stall dimensions, handicap stalls, all of that. So it was pretty tricky. The applicant had worked through many different iterations before we even saw anything. They were very patient as staff reviewed all the different possibilities. So it's pretty much all non-conforming today. So how could we get a parking lot in there as conforming as possible? We tried to get to all requirements being met, and that's just not possible at all. So this is the best plan that we think we can work with. It provides the required number of stalls +1. So based on the number of beds, the required 20 stalls. There's 21 in the parking lot. They've reconfigured this area, and labeled them all as compact stalls. So these are all meet all the dimension requirements for a compact stall. The variance for compact stalls is because you're only allowed 20% of the lot of the stalls are allowed to be compact, but they're asking for more than that, and it equals out to be about 45. It comes out to be about 45%. So these are all going to be compact stalls. This one next to the ADA stall, and this one right here will be a compact stall. But again, they do meet the dimensions for compact stalls. These two stalls are compliant. They're only 17 feet in depth, but because of the amount of landscaping area over here, you can have a 2-foot overhang count towards your required parking. A stall is required to be 19 feet in depth. So then you have 6 stalls over here that are 17 feet in depth. They do not meet the requirement because there is no landscaped area for the 2 feet to hang over. So the variance includes reducing this set of stalls depth from 19 to 17 feet. And then when you have a two-way a drive aisle in a parking lot, it's required to be 24 feet, and this is 22 feet. When you get down here, these 3 stalls are angled parking at 45 degrees. They do meet all the dimension requirements for 45-degree stalls, and the drive aisle width is 15 feet, but that is allowed per code. So it's just these stalls and the drive aisle right here, and then the amount of parking compact stalls is what the variance approves. In order to approve a variance, you have to meet all standards in the staff report have to be met. Staff believes that all of the standards are met in this situation. This is pretty unique, given that the site is what it is. There's not a lot of room to work with. These are the additions driven by, the size of the addition is driven by code requirements. So it's not like they're choosing to do this grand room that's ancillary to the use. It is used as a sorority. It was built as a sorority. So if it were to be torn down or renovated on the inside, it'd create a pretty significant expense. And we figured that the compromise would be the best in the parking area, to keep as many parking stalls on the site as we could rather than pushing it off onto the street. This is already a congested area with other sororities and fraternities and single family homes in the neighborhood. So with that, our recommendation is number 1, which is to approve both of the variances that are requested. And we're saying represented by Exhibit C so that they have to follow this configuration. They can't come in with a site plan and do something different than this without coming back before the board for changes to be approved. I can answer any questions you have, or we can talk about any of the findings specifically if you want.
Okay. Are there any questions for staff? I have a few. Can you tell us about high screen landscaping? What's that supposed to look like?
So there's usually a tree requirement, so many trees per lineal feet. And then you would also, there's a shrub requirement and they have to be a certain height. And then you again there's a formula for so many per lineal foot of that.
Okay.
So if you look at the area, really nobody in here has any landscaping in their parking lots or room to really add it when you're looking for those. Because there should be one along to meet code, if you were to build today, and this was all fresh, green site, you would need a high screen landscape buffer along every property line in here where you see a parking lot. Mm-hmm. So they are maintaining this grass area to the west. They're just evening it out. These trees are remaining. These trees are remaining, and they'll add some other shrubs and maintain what's there.
Okay, and the east with the.
Yeah, east.
Okay.
Did I say west? Sorry.
That's okay. And so it's going to continue to be grass. There's no other shrubs being planted in that area?
They'll plant some additional shrubs.
But that won't meet the high screen requirement?
Maybe not. We'll have to see.
Okay. Is there a shrub plan that they've submitted?
Not. There's no additional shrub plans on this. We haven't submitted their final site plan yet to see what that looks like.
Okay. And then on the reasonable return finding, so what uses are allowed in this zoning district besides?
And this is RH, so an apartment building, which you would have to either tear down and rebuild a brand new apartment building, or, it would probably take a complete gut of the building and do some type of individual unit with kitchens.
Okay. So it's
in order to meet the code.
Basically apartment buildings and group living. Okay, great.
Yep.
So you'd run into the same issues.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks. That's it. Any other questions? Okay. Now it's time for the applicant to speak to their request or their representative. You can bring the card up here. Thanks. Name and address, please.
John Washington. My address is 26114 520th Avenue in Ames.
Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
I'm with Fox Engineering. I put together the site plan, and I'm representing Alpha Delta Pi tonight. So as Julie mentioned, we went through several iterations for this layout, and we feel like this is about as good as we can do. One thing I'll point out is the existing parking lot has 28 spaces marked. And so we're going from 28 to 21 spaces. So there's a pretty good loss there. The existing parking lot has 0 handicap parking spaces, and we're proposing 1 van accessible space. So that's a benefit as well. And on the east side, I do think we can do a high screen. I think a high screen is an overstory tree every 50 feet with shrubs in between. So I think we could work with the mature trees that are there and add some additional shrubs there. And then I'm here if you have any other specific questions.
Okay. I guess on the east side high screen, would you want to come up with a plan and work through that with staff, or is that something you've thought about and could talk to us more about?
We've talked about it a little bit, and We just haven't gone there yet because we weren't sure if this was going to go through, but
Okay.
it would involve, just the length of the parking lot there, maybe another tree and I don't know, a dozen or 18 shrubs,
Okay. So
4 foot high when they're planted. So
probably doable.
yeah,
Okay,
yes.
great. Any questions for the applicant board? I'm sorry, I started with questions already. No one's surprised. Kyle?
Nope, I'm good here.
Okay. Great.
Thanks.
I think that's it for me then. Thank you. Are there, do you want to speak on behalf of the applicant or are you a member of the public? Sorry.
I certainly can introduce myself.
Okay.
Hi.
I saw you had an orange card, so I thought.
Go ahead. Introduce myself. Good evening. If you want to, I'm Angelina Thomas. I'm here as a member of the Alpha Delta Pi Housing
Okay.
Corporation Board.
Great. Hold on one second. Then I'll open the public hearing. So,
Okay.
since it's not the applicant, right?
Well, I'm here for
But
the.
you're
I'm-
here on behalf.
Yes.
Okay, so never mind. Sorry.
Yeah.
Can I have your address too?
Sure. 4221 Wembley Avenue
Okay.
in Ames.
Thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth?
I do.
Thanks.
I am a member of the Housing Corporation Board for Alpha Delta Pi, have been for over a decade. I'm also a former member and resident of this Alpha Delta Pi sorority, and lived there from 87 to 90, December of 90. And that parking lot was pretty much the same then. And I think staff and John Washington have done a wonderful job explaining things, but I guess I'd just offer a couple points about the kitchen and the need for the kitchen remodel itself. This kitchen hasn't been remodeled since the 70s, and for efficiency purposes, it needs a remodel. We have tile falling off the wall. We do not have a grease trap. The ventilation system, the hood system over the stove is not up to code. There actually isn't mechanical systems in place for heat or air conditioning in the kitchen. And we also need to expand out the kitchen a little bit into the interior to allow partial 24 access to members. We can't have the whole kitchen open for insurance purposes. And so there's just a lot of things that have to happen. And as Julie indicated, without doing major construction inside, there's just not room to do that. And once we start remodeling any of the kitchen, then we getting into the code requirements requiring a three stall sink and the updated hood, and that takes the space, and that's why we're requesting that. We've made it as limited as possible, trying to be as concise in the arrangement as we can. And we think this can accomplish everything and actually improve the parking lot. Although it will still be non-conforming, we think it'll be less so and more beneficial in general. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any
if you have
questions?
No.
Okay. Are you okay with the high screen?
Up on the east side,
Side?
yes, we are fine with that.
Okay.
That's another sorority, the
So it's like-
Chi Omega sorority, kind of abuts,
Okay.
that's the back and the side of their house. And that's really not a used area. A few people cut through there, but it's just kind of overgrown area in between the two houses. So
Okay.
yeah, we're certainly
Great.
capable of doing that.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, thank you.
Any other members of the public wishing to speak? Seeing no one moving to the microphone. We'll close. I know. We'll close the public hearing. I was really hoping. Any other comments by staff or the applicant?
I don't think so. I didn't include the floor plan in the staff report as an attachment, but they did provide one.
Okay,
I guess I would make one other point.
Yeah.
If I may.
please.
We are, and I appreciate Mr. Perkins being available by phone because time was kind of of the essence to get this through. We were hoping to take advantage of the spring break and now maybe the extra 2 weeks
Yeah.
after, because they really need to start on this project because it'll take into the end of the summer to get completed. And so spring break was part of that process. So we really would like to utilize the time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. A reduction in landscaping. Just want to make sure I understand what the request is fully. To allow a reduction of width in required perimeter parking lot planters and buffer yards. So is that the high screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just was looking for the language that of course, now I can't find my paperwork.
I understand the time crunch on this project and don't want to slow you down if I don't make the right motion with the landscaping necessarily and accidentally deny something that we need a variance on the north side still.
Mhm. Yeah, the perimeter parking lot planters and buffer yards is like the title of the section.
Okay.
That it's the variance of.
Okay, so it's for the north and east sides?
Mhm.
Okay.
So that would be
This
Down
side
here.
where they say that a high screen might be possible.
down into there somewhere.
Yep.
Oh.
Hope he's up there.
Should I
I'll
make
hit a button.
motion? Do we need a motion for recess?
We can take a break while we get Kyle back on the line. Hi.
Welcome back.
Okay, we're back. We could entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve alternative 1
Okay.
based on staff recommendation.
Can I make a friendly amendment?
There's no second.
Don't we do the amendments first?
Usually, yeah.
We do an amendment first.
Yeah.
You do it your-
Okay. That the landscaping variance only be for the north side approved and that the east side high screen buffer is completed to the best of the applicant's
So
ability.
point of clarification, you're saying not along the north.
I'm saying the variance for the north side is approved, would be part of the motion, but the variance for the east side would not be.
For the entire east side or just the parking lot area?
I understand.
It would just be adjacent. It's only required
Adjacent
adjacent to the parking lot area.
Okay, I'll accept the friendly amendment.
Okay, thank
You'll
you.
accept it. We need it seconded now.
And I'll second
Second.
I'll second then. Okay,
Keep it straight.
thank you. Roll call vote.
Shonen,
Aye.
Shitloff,
Aye.
Perkins,
And the motion is declared approved. Any person desiring to appeal this decision to a court of record may do so within 30 days after the filing of this decision. Okay, that is the last item. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned.
No discussion?